Level 1 Computex 2019 coverage is made possible by Asrock. Yes, Asrock has sponsored our travel to come out to Computex, so I want to say thanks to Asrock. They've got a lot of new exciting products here at Computex, not the least of which is X570. All of their X570 motherboards in the full lineup. We're going to have a video on that. You should check that out. There's a link in the description. Definitely check out their products. They've also got the Steel Legend, the Z390. So, if you're Team Red or Team Blue, it doesn't really matter. There's something there for you no matter what. Although, things are getting kind of interesting at this Computex. Also, I want to say a big thanks to Team Group. Team Group, they've got a lot of new, exciting SSDs and RAM and all kinds of stuff. And they also sponsored our travel out to Computex. So all of our Computex coverage for 2019 are thanks to those guys, because they made it so we could get here, which is really awesome. Now, Team Group is pretty exciting. We've got a full video of all the stuff that they've got going on at their booth. I've been using Team Group for many years, all the way back to I think the DDR2 or DDR3 days. Check them out. There's a link in the description. I think I found my next multi-monitor setup. So Adata was showing off some of their new products. Got air-cooled overclocking record, 5.2 megatransfers per second, and then an LN2, overclock world record, 5.7 megatransfers per second. Got new RGB or new XPG NVMe, new power supplies like the Cybernetics power supply, all-in-one water coolers. This is Asetek, but it's a newer generation Asetek cooler than anybody else is using yet. Adata are the first ones to market with the brand newest Adata XPG. They've also got some cases that they were showing off. So this is the XPG Battle Cruiser. It's got sort of a magnetic snap-on front filter fan thing, and it's pretty accessible. It's fairly modular, tempered glass side panel. The XPG Invader, which is they've got another RGB build that they're showing off here. It's side intake vents for the air, which I think this side fan thing is probably the future, because that'll let you exhaust the hot air from your CPU directly to the outside. So you could have front intake and then some exhaust on the side and then more intake from the bottom, so that you've got a lot of airflow in your system. I think that because CPUs run so hot, that it's a good idea to try to have your radiator exhaust directly outside, and it's even better if you can bring in cool air from the outside just for the CPU and then exhaust it immediately. Adata is also showing off some new headsets that they've put together. I'm not really a headset person, but the build quality seemed pretty good from playing with it. They've also got RGB and non-RGB mouse mats, like mouse mat / desk mats. So it's the fabric. Here's the logo for the fabric. I mean, I like our mouse pads that it's just cloth with a rubber backing, but these mouse pads felt like they would be a lot easier to clean, and that they would absorb a lot less dirt and grime versus the standard cloth. Adata also has some gaming keyboards that they wanted to show me. So it's gaming keyboard, gaming mouse, that kind of thing. Everything from rubber dome to mechanical switches. At the very high end, they're using cherry switches, I think. Adata was also showing off their external SSDs and the ruggedized SSDs. So these are USB 3.2 Type C. So it's USB 3.1 Gen 2. So 10 gigabit per second. They also have the next gen NVMe. So this is a Silicon Motion. So PCIe 4.0. This is the SM2267. Now, most of the other SSDs that were on the show floor were the Phison controller, but this is a Silicon Motion controller. So this is a different setup. This is something that really needs to be tested so that we can see how the performance is, how the performance stacks up. But yeah, PCIe 4.0. Of course, Adata was also showing off their, it's DDR4 unbuffered memory and their standard stuff, your SATA SSDs and that kind of thing. More external SSDs, so 1 gigabyte per second on the interface, pretty big capacities here. Other external SSDs, these work great with consoles or portable systems or anything like that. So Adata really makes a lot of different flash products other than SATA SSDs and NVMe SSDs. Now, Gigabyte's X570 launch press event was far and away over the top. It was completely nuts. So in the Taipei 101, they rented some event space, And so they had this big auditorium. There was at least 150 people there. Phison, like the Phison guy, was there to talk about the whole, ecosystem and PCIe 4.0, and how when they started on the PCIe 4.0 project in like August of last year, he was like, I don't know, there's probably not really a market for this. And the guy from Phison said that Gigabyte convinced them that there would be a market for PCIe 4.0, and that PCI 3.0 was already holding back current drives. So Gigabyte was also showing off a lot of other cool stuff with like their NVMe carriers and a bunch of Phison RAID arrays. They have the 15 gigabyte per second 4 Phison drive RAID array that I'm sure that you guys have probably already seen, and that's going to be a little bit of a stretch in X570. But looking at the chipset layout, RAID 0 is perfectly reasonable for for video or content creators or anything like that, because those SSDs, the prices come down. The SSDs are not going to be unreasonable in terms of like price and complexity. So like the RAID 0 or RAID 1 for redundancy, that's going to be a thing on X570 that would otherwise be a lot more problematic on other platforms. We also got a really, really good demonstration of Gigabyte's design process, like their technical design process for the newest, like their new flagship X570 motherboard. It's going to have a 16-phase direct VRM setup for the processor. And the flagship motherboard, because of the way that it's designed for cooling, does not have a chipset fan. It is one of it's the only X570 motherboard I saw that was not designed for direct liquid cooling that did not have a chipset fan. And Gigabyte says they've tested that thoroughly, and that because of the way the board is built and everything about the board is for heat dissipation, that not going to be a problem. If the new CPUs that AMD showed at the press event actually do not use a lot of power, then this VRM solution is going to run pretty cool. But the power savings here is about 4%. So that's like the difference between 80 plus bronze and like 80 plus titanium. Gigabyte's also doing some things with their monitors that is maybe like not competitive legal. One of them is Black Equalizer 2.0. So the monitor will actually take an input signal and be like, this area of the screen is dark. Let's brighten up just that part. So it's not like raising the brightness or the contrast in a particular game. It's changing the game in a way that the game designer didn't intend, but this would maybe give you an advantage in FPS games. I could see that some game companies might have a problem with this, maybe, but gaming monitors. For the NVMe cooling, check this out. This is basically a copper slug, and so this acts like a thermal capacitor for these high-speed PCI Express 4.0 NVMe. I mean, PCI Express 4.0, you realize that signals at 16 gigahertz, or I think the interface frequency is 16 gigahertz. So this is a pretty insane setup. Gigabyte was also showing off their other motherboards. Now, the flagship motherboard is the one that has the 16 direct drive phases. The other motherboards are not going to have the same VRM setup. But there's everything here from an ITX setup for 570 all the way up to the flagship motherboard. I'm here at Gigabyte. It's not Aorus. It's more stuff. I mean, we took a look at the Aorus stuff, but this is Gigabyte. And Gigabyte is a big part of the Internet of Trees. They're showing off a Zigbee solution that implements sensors that they've sort of configured for their custom platform with an Android app that's a total smart farm solution. But that's really one of the interesting things that's happening with applications as far as like the edge of the Internet of Things. It's not really on the internet, there's a central controller, and it all reports back to a central hub. But they've also hooked up their booth with, a bunch of really amazing Orwellian technology, like it's face recognition, and it will actually recognize your face and remember you, and then tell them how many people have actually visited the booth. It's pretty cool, the future's upon us. I wonder how it would do with Pat from Saturday Night Live. I don't know. Our tags have QR codes so that they can see where we go. No, it's really exciting. I'm here to take a look at the server stuff, and the server stuff is really super awesome. I'm here with Gigabyte. This is liquid cooling, except we're missing something. This is a dual Rome platform. No, dual Naples. It's probably going to be updated for Rome, but you didn't hear that from me. But we're missing the radiator. What do you do in that kind of a situation? Do you need a data center that's fully good to go as far as liquid cooling goes? Nope. Asetek's got you covered. You can just deploy a single rack solution and cool 3 or 4 of these servers. This particular system from Gigabyte is a 4-node 2U system, dual socket per node, lots of PCI Express connectivity, although if you need more, they've got another option. But this is a ridiculous amount of compute horsepower in a very small package that is only 2U. Yeah, you got to worry about cooling, but if your data center is set up for liquid cooling, you can just patch in the liquid cooling, plug it in like you would plug in any other peripheral, and you're good to go. Servers are getting weird, but I like it. And there's some stuff that I can't show you yet, but there is some stuff that I can. So we've got a 4U chassis that is designed, I mean, look, it's just, it can be completely packed to the gills with V100. We've got 2 in the top here, but when you flip open the top, a ton could fit in the bottom as well. And so this gives you compute, and this gives you storage, this gives you performance. Also, liquid cooling. All right, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, 4U, 4 nodes, 2U, that's pretty cool, but I need a lot of PCI Express connectivity. Look, I've got that new 400 gig Ethernet card from Intel, and 4 nodes and 2U is just not going to cut it for me. Well, you got to check this out. You get 2x16 expansion slots in addition to the expansion slot that's actually available in the node. There's a direct PCI Express interface to the chassis so that you can run 3 PCI Express peripherals in a system like this per node, and it's still a 2U chassis. You've got all the connectivity you could ever need, whether it's going to be a storage backplate or super high, like a super high speed PCI Express type interface, 400 gig Ethernet, whatever you need. Oh, and before I forget, you've also got the OCP slot. So all of your favorite peripherals in an OCP form factor, you can still run those, but you've still got your half-height PCI Express. What are you going to do with all these PCI Express lanes? This is socket 3647. We got to do the Rome version of this. I'm Wendell. This is Level 1. I'm signing out, and I'll see you in the forums.